All right, welcome to the latest episode of the Colman Power Organic Fitness Podcast. Okay, I love these shows. Firstly, when I've got in my left hand my beverage of choice, ginger tea. Yes, with cloves. I do love cloves and ginger. Both things I highly recommend people to add to their diet. So this week's show is based off questions. So it's a Q&A style podcast. I typically do either guests or solo episodes such as this one. So again, if you ever want any of your questions answered, send it in either through email, any of the social media platforms that I'm on, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. My name is Colman Power. Organic Fitness is the best place to get me throughout all of those shows. All of those platforms? Yes. So this is also on YouTube. It's out every Thursday. Taking a sip of that. Beautiful. So we'll put down and go straight on into the first of the question. We'll run through the four of them. So where to start to change over to a more organic diet? Okay, that's the first of the questions. What to grow at this time of year, the winter months coming ahead. A lot of people being more sustainable this year. I'm training for an event. What should I eat or more of? And the last question, do you recommend fruit? And then those are the four main topics that we are going to discuss in this week's show. So this episode is, as I said, no more than 30 minutes. And I always talk about, I suppose, the pillars of health, and with foods and training and exercise and inclusive of the lifestyle. I have been given a discount code from Swanwick. So these are blue light blocking glasses that are out of reach right now at this moment in time, but they're something that I wear consistently, and the discount code is Colman15. If you want to improve your health, and sleep being so important for that, because when you get sleep, you improve your energy levels for the next day. So that is the shout out to this week's sponsors, Swanwick Colman 15. I wear them. They naturally increase melatonin, especially if you're looking at your phone at night. So here we go into the first question: where to start to change over to a more organic fruit and veg diet? That comes in from TikTok, and the individual's username is 2 Shoes in Hell. I quite like it. It's kind of original. So going straight into that question, the first thing you need to do is realize that it's not necessarily a diet that you should label it as. It's more a lifestyle. Going to country markets, getting your shopping is the first thing you most and certainly must do, because well, if you don't have the food in your house, you cannot, I suppose, have the advantage of having any of those food items in your breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Because for the most part, people struggle with not having foods, and you're under eating foods. When you tend to under eat foods, you then under eat for breakfast, you're going to under eat for lunch, and then you'll typically binge eat at the end of the day. That's what happens to most people that I train, mentor, and coach. Okay, and when I do bring people onto the organic fitness program, they get a shopping list. There's a suggestion meal plan that they pick. Either there's several items, smoothies, or some things that people can bring to work depending on if they're working at home or not. There's options of savory oats, which I'm currently on at the minute. Why? Because you can add in such vegetables as leeks and garlic to your breakfast with parsley. Okay, leeks are most certainly high in a type of fiber called inulin. Inulin feeds your gut microorganisms. After that, then it's adding in pink Himalayan salt to porridge, because when you reduce the amount of processed foods you have in your diet, we actually previously used to use salt. To me, as my granny would put salt on porridge, and at the time I thought that was extremely strange. But you see, it's those things we've come like so far away from. And my granny wouldn't eat anything that would be highly processed. She probably reared on bacon and cabbage and porridge and boiled eggs and carrots and potatoes. That was probably her staple diet, and that's something we need to, I suppose, take a leaf out of their book and going back to single ingredient foods. And that really, in a nutshell, is what you need to do. You need to go shopping, and you need to buy anything that would have color. And the four main colors are the four main antioxidants that I recommend. So those are your green, which is chlorophyll, your red, which is lycopene, your purple, which is anthocyanins. And on top of that, then you have the final main antioxidant is yellow or orange, it's beta carotene. So the beta carotene is something that can change your skin and improve your health, because skin being one of the first things that people look at when they see it. And I would typically have quite high quality skin, decent skin, just due to the fact that my diet, and as well as other things such as sweating on a regular basis, because that eliminates any toxins that I do come into, because at this moment in time we are heavily polluted, especially with air pollutants, and that's worth noting too. So go back to the antioxidants, anthocyanins, from the purple, and foods that I recommend for the purple antioxidant would be beetroot, because beetroot is something that is also found, or sorry, antioxidants, anthocyanins also found in blueberries, but beetroot is something that is in season right now, and as a result of that, you do not have, I suppose, that added excess sugar. It's not that sugar is bad, it's just you get, I suppose, better bang for your buck, and you get the nitrates found in beetroot. Nitrates can naturally improve your energy levels. These are things that most people want, especially coming off a highly processed diet, which is leading to, well, firstly, poor skin health, poor energy levels, and as a result of that, poor overall health. And then switching into your greens, which is the chlorophyll, which is, and those greens also contain vitamin C, which is another antioxidant. Vitamin C is good for your immune system, speeds up muscle recovery, and most certainly the greens that I recommend would be oriental salads. Need to clear my throat. Excuse me. For those of you that are on YouTube, you can see me sipping through my beverage. I love having a warm beverage first thing in the morning that aids in digestion, and that's, I suppose, another thing that you can do. It's adding in small incremental improvements. Whatever your starting point is right now, it's looking for an improvement. You're not looking for perfection, because even my own diet and my own health and fitness journey, it's about just being 1% better. I'm a firm believer in that compound effect, doing more things that benefit you, and food choices and shopping lists and getting food items that are in those three, we call it simple antioxidants, are going to benefit you. So if you're looking for an improvement in health, you most certainly need to just choose colors, because colors are those beneficial antioxidants. Antioxidants reduce stress in your body. When you have less stress in your body, you have more energy levels as a result of that. Antioxidants reduce the signs of aging. They prevent inflammation, which is, for the most part, inflammation can occur at a smaller level, which can occur at spots on your face, on your skin, which I used to have excessive amounts on, especially when I had a lot of dairy, which I am incapable of digesting the lactose, which is found in milk. And just because I was Irish at the time, when I was eating a lot of dairy and having it in my porridge and having yogurts on a regular basis, it's something that didn't suit me. And that's important to note. Whatever diet you pick, whatever food you pick, to make sure that they suit you and your lifestyle going forward. And my preference would be to understand foods before you pick a diet. So then, I suppose after that, going back to the question, having meals planned out ahead of time. So I know typically my breakfast is either going to be a smoothie for me, or it's going to be overnight oats or some type of savory oats. Those are things that I enjoy. Those are things that can add in vegetables and fruits into my diet. And in either of those, there's most certainly going to be some sort of greens, whether it be in the smoothie, there will be kale, there will be definitely parsley. You could also have a parsley tea, which again, I'm a firm believer in, adding greens to your diet. And when you add in fruits and vegetables, what you're getting is fiber. Fiber is so important to your diet because it naturally improves your gut health. Most of us are looking for increased energy levels and right now increased immunity. And that's what your gut does. There's a high percentage, if not 60 to 70% of your immune system is located in your gut. So if you're looking for, I suppose, to be a healthier and a happier version of yourself, most certainly improve your fiber intake. There are different types of fiber, and the one that your gut microorganisms are absolutely mad about is, inulin, found in onions, garlics, and leeks. When you're making a meal, just think of it like this, a stir fry should always start with crushing your garlic to increase the antioxidants and increase the antioxidants, Allicin it's called. And how I actually remember that is because I used to have a babysitter called Allicin, and that's not in any way linked to how she smelled. It was just how I remembered it when I was learning all about that during my master's degree. And if Alison is listening to this podcast right now, Alison, I love you so much. And send me a DM. I'll send you out some page. And always adding, going back to the point, always adding in high fiber, high ingredient type foods, such as onions and garlics. They go into a stir fry. Then you add in your protein source, whether it be tofu, tempeh, chicken, fish, turkey, or eggs would be another complete protein source. And then off the bat of that, you're adding in a green and have any complex carbohydrate after that. And it's literally a balanced meal that has proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. That's exactly what you need to do. So getting a shopping list that has, I suppose, vegetables that you like, or you can get local, and going to country markets would be something I would highly recommend. Then after that, going and having your meals planned out, know what you like for breakfast, and then having, I suppose, a salad type lunch at lunch time. Why? Because that's just going to get you adding in more fiber to your diet, getting more vitamins, more minerals, which again is going to improve your energy levels. And then for your main meal of the day, having again another solid balanced meal of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, of the complex carbohydrates, giving you a slow release of energy, and complete proteins, and some sure as hell veg in any way, color that you desire. So then this means we absolutely brilliantly on to what to grow at this time of year. So we just touching on the fact that greens are so important in your diet. Whether you find it difficult to get greens at country markets or local or fresh, I highly recommend you to start growing a little bit of these types of vegetables. They're simple. You can put them in a pot, whether you have a small polytunnel or glass house. You can most certainly gain the advantage of it growing throughout the winter months. These type of oriental salads that are related to broccoli, that are able to tolerate the cold. So these seeds that you need to buy are either an oriental salad mix, and or specifically rocket arugula, which is the same thing in different continents. America, they call it arugula. In Europe, based countries, and Britain, because they're not in Europe anymore, you call it rocket arugula. And tatsoi are something that I want people to add in more to their diet. Why? Because they contain, again, vitamin C, but not only that, magnesium, and magnesium reduces cravings. And then again, they can be grown in pots. So if you're growing them in pots, it's literally putting a small indent. These are one of the easiest things to grow. Mansuna is another variety as well of oriental salad. Popping 4 cells per hole that you have, and as a result of that, spacing them out, fist spacing. It doesn't have to be the exact science. Fist spacings, 10 to 15 centimeters is all you need in between plants. You can grab your head of lettuce, which is oriental salad, and cutting it about 20 to 25 centimeters above ground or soil level, and you would have numerous harvests of these type of greens. It's simply done in a pot. I'm going to show you guys how to do that over on YouTube. There are going to be demonstrations on that, and I already am this evening after our record this podcast, going down to an individual there just beyond Clonakilty in West Cork, showing someone doing and incorporating in just that to feed his family. He's 2 small children, he has a wife, and the produce that they have grown themselves this year, his wife came through the organic fitness program, and he is now producing his own small amount of his own food just to be a little more sustainable. He's got potatoes, he's got yacon, which is another food that we've talked and discussed on, which I can touch on briefly. That is an edible tuber that again is from South America, just like the potatoes, but it's completely different because again it contains sugars, but this sugar doesn't have a negative effect on your blood sugar levels. Okay, it's called fructoalosaccharides, and for dyslexic to spell that, it's an absolute nightmare, I have to tell you. So I can only say it, and Googling it as well is difficult because I find, how can I spell it? So yacon is the name of the plant, and I also do recommend you to try and source that. If not, grow it or get in contact with someone that can sort you out with that. If you know me, get onto me. And yes, that is something that you can grow your own, and it's quite easy to grow, and I do recommend that. One of the last salady greens that I do recommend people to use and or to grow and eat and consume, and one of the quotes that I've been using right now as of recently on social media platforms is, whether you buy it, whether you grow it or you buy it, make sure you add it to your diet. And that's something that going forward, I'm going to be using, kind of one of those things you might get in the back of a t-shirt. It's really a super crap winter purslane. It's cold tolerant, and you're sowing it in the September month so that you can either just get some harvest just before the cool winter we're going to get, and coming into spring it comes out in abundance. It's a leafy type lettuce, quite similar to, I suppose, a meaty type of lettuce, I would call it. And it's one of my favorite types of. It's actually also have a nickname of miner's lettuce because it's full and packed full of vitamin C, and it got that from when individuals came out from the mines. It was one of the first things that they went and craved because of that. And the body will tell you before you even do what it actually needs. And they were looking for vitamin C, and they found it in abundance when they started eating winter purslane. So it being a meaty type lettuce, this brings us on lovely to the next question. The second last one, I am training for, and actually just to give a shout out, that came in from Emma from Instagram. And next question comes in from A.B.P.A.I.S. Paisley from TikTok. So I'm training for an event. What should I eat more of? And then in brackets, vegan. So whether you are vegan or not, definitely those winter purslane type, salad type vegetables is something that I would get you to incorporate into your diet because vitamin C speeds up your recovery from training. And after that, we have to talk about what the body runs off. The body runs off three main things: proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. So if you're training for an event, which is typically this one is labeled, I'm sure, as an endurance event, it's carbohydrates that the body, unless you're in a ketosis state, that your body is running off of. So carbohydrates come from all different vegetables. Yes, most certainly do. So that's why I don't recommend keto diet to everybody. I do train and have trained previous individuals for events and using their body to using fats as a direct fuel source to switch over to ketones. But it's not something I recommend sustainably for long term because you're restricted in a certain amount of vegetables that are high carbohydrates, such as onions, garlic, and leeks. And even some fruits in excessive amounts will prevent you from getting into full ketosis, which again is not a diet I am keen on, just due to the fact of when you're restricting fruits and vegetables, you're missing out on so many different things. And fiber, I love fiber because it fills me up, and it is the distinctive main advantage. If you want to be healthier and happier, 90% of your serotonin is produced in your gut. That's just something you need to note, write down, and feel the difference yourself when you start to consume a more whole plant-based whole food diet. And that's something that I do, and what I do is what I pretty much recommend. So those food items that I recommend you should eat more of, ABPASLAY. The fact is complex carbohydrates, because there are two main types of carbohydrates. Carbohydrates can be split up into two main groups. Okay, first of which is simple carbohydrates, and in this definition, it's simpler for the body to break down. So these are your white rice, your white pasta, and your white breads. They give the body a quick release of energy, and carbohydrates are converted into glycogen, and glycogen is then put into the muscles. And then once we have glycogen in the muscles, it's used as our direct fuel source for any activity, whether it be walking, whether it be jogging, whether it be running, or weight-based exercises. That is worth noting. So, but with those simple carbohydrates, it is something that gives you a quick release of energy. Following that, then there is a dip, just because we're lacking the fiber. Because that's, for to give the example of the white rice, the grain is polished and then the fiber is removed, as well as some of the B vitamins, again, that I don't recommend necessarily directly for the majority of your diet. But with the other side of the carbohydrates being the complex carbohydrates. So these are complex carbohydrates that I do recommend. So the first of which we'll go with oats, one of my favorite. Why? Because it gives you that slow release of energy. Also contains tryptophan, and tryptophan is the precursor to numerous different chemical hormones in your body. First of which is the production of serotonin. Serotonin is a happy hormone. And on top of that, oats are a simple thing. They can literally steep them overnight, aids in digestion. But other complex carbohydrates, if you are vegan, most certainly would be your bulgur wheat and quinoa. And they are both complex. They're not only complex carbohydrates, but they're also complete proteins. They contain all 9 essential amino acids. That means they are comparable to meat sources, but they are not the same. And that's just something that people need to understand. They're not lacking any essential amino acids, but they are lower than meat sources or meat produce such as dairy or eggs. And as I said previously, in your new listeners to this podcast, I'm not a vegan, I'm not a vegetarian, I'm for optimal health, and I choose foods based off my fitness requirements and for me personally. And that's what you have to look into, whether you're working with me, myself, or any other health practitioner. So not to say that in eating those complex carbohydrates such as quinoa or bulgur wheat that you can't get exactly the amino acids from other food sources. I do recommend mixing, combining incomplete proteins such as lentils with either nuts, and we're also a complex carbohydrate. These are things that can give you a slow release of energy. So those are the complex carbohydrates. Lentils, red lentils again, and they're typically actually not red, they're actually more orange. They contain that antioxidant beta carotene, which is beneficial for your skin health and giving you a slow release of energy. Sourdough breads are a complex carbohydrate again, which are important for you to consume, for you to have those steady flow of energies as opposed to that up and a downward spike that leads to cravings later on. We typically don't crave broccoli, so we most certainly recommend you to add in those food items that are complex carbohydrate and brown pastas and brown breads, especially if you get them organically, because in America, which a high percentage or even a percentage of the listeners here are, don't realize that glyphosate is sprayed on wheat to speed up its ripening process. And as a result of that, glyphosate is something that is not only a carcinogenic, but it's an antibiotic, which causes negative effects to your gut health. So if you are choosing whole wheat food items, it's so important to get them organically, just due to the fact that a lot of issues such as leaky gut that are becoming more and more common are coming as a result of harsh chemicals being sprayed excessively on crops such as wheat. And other things you need to certainly bump up in your diet would be protein sources. So if you are vegan, you may need to supplement with a protein source. I currently do. I use also a Sun Warrior protein that I take in either a smoothie form or add it to yogurts. And when you're making a smoothie, I do mix it with my oats, so it kind of makes it a balanced meal with pumpkin seeds that again contain zinc, which are good for your immune system, and they're a healthy fat. And then that makes that smoothie a balanced meal as well. Because a lot of people say, smoothies bad, Colman. And no, smoothies aren't bad. It's the fact that you need to balance them, having the three main macros, proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, which are exactly what the body runs off. And if you are being specific to your event and you are tracking your macros, it might be worth noting that carbohydrates must take up a high percentage of your overall macros for you to perform at your best, especially if you are running off, I suppose, glycogen coming from carbohydrates. And that was a really classic question that leads me on to the final question coming in from the private Facebook page on the Organic Fitness Program. Does fruit make you fat, or do you recommend fruit? So straight away, fruit does not make you fat, and no one single ingredient ever made anybody fat. It's important to note what fruit that you are consuming. Bananas being higher in sugar, and mangoes and other very extremely sweet fruits isn't something I recommend to people, especially in Ireland anyway, for the fact that mangoes, papayas, and bananas typically don't grow in Ireland. But that's not to say I don't eat them. The fact is that there are fruits and berries in particular that I do recommend to people. Firstly, just now, because they're in season, and typically people listen to podcasts on the date or the week of the release. So right now we're coming into the cooler months, it being September. It has fruit, and nature has designed fruit to come into season for a reason, and the fruit of which is blackberries. Black currants have just finished if you have your fruit bushes, and we're coming into black currant season. Blackberries. They are found on ditches, periphery edges of banks, dividing fields, and they're free. And if you are able to go out and pick them right now, I highly recommend you, if you're not living in a large built-up area or a city, to pick them and save them and freeze them for, I suppose, the winter months. So fruits are something that I do have in my diet, but I have them at insulin sensitive times. So that means because fruits contain sugar, and sugar is a carbohydrate. I do recommend them to be eaten either first thing in the morning and or directly after your workout. Okay, when your body needs energy, give it energy. And that's why I typically have my salad type lunch at lunchtime, whatever lunchtime is for you. Some people that follow this show are intermittent fasters, and I would dabble in that certainly myself. But it's just to getting back to the question directly, it's fruit is so important in your diet. It has antioxidants which reduce stress in your body, and the purple antioxidant anthocyanin is something people don't get enough of in their diet, and is also worth noting that fruit, and a handful of fruit even for that matter, contains 50% of your manganese. Okay, manganese being one of the minerals that we need in smaller amounts. It's used for about 20 different processes in the body, but they're important processes nonetheless. Okay, brain development and improving your cognitive function is something that these berries can do, and manganese does on a regular basis if you consume it, enough of it. And that's why a lot of people, I suppose, choose blueberries, but these are a hell of a lot cheaper than blueberries, especially if you're going out right now and picking them off the ditch. Okay, they're in abundance, and they used to be something that I used to do as a child growing up, and I lost the habit out of it then living, and I suppose, a less healthy, unhealthy lifestyle, a lot of drink, a lot of alcohol, and there was processed foods involved in that too. I ate McDonald's and Burger King and Hungry Jack's and everything else in between. But now I much prefer to eat whole foods. And a lot of people ask me, do you ever do cheat meals? And no, I don't, not for the most part. I enjoy living, I suppose, a more sustainable, healthier lifestyle. I have much more energy as a result of that, as you can see from, I suppose, different platforms such as TikTok. There's a lot going on there. But the benefits of manganese, in particular for women as well, is it reduces symptoms of PMS, which is very common. So if you are a sufferer of PMS, I would highly recommend you to bump up your berry intake, especially of fruits that are in season right now. As I said, those black berries are something you can add right now and save and freeze for those winter months. But as well as that, berries, whether you're consuming them either as black, chemical-free, blue, black currants or black berries, either way, it's important to get them organic, because the next thing is people are excessively adding in toxins, and berries and fruits can be, and commercial growers can be heavily sprayed nearly up to 10 times in a growing season. And that's why I'm a huge emphasis on people consuming and having an idea of foods that are heavily sprayed. And there's a list called the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. And each and every year, the Dirty Dozen, berries are up there. Strawberries are one of the most heavily sprayed crops in a year. And whether you're eating that soft fruit or another berry, which I do recommend in people's diets for their added benefits, it's making sure that you're consuming them, because there are a lot of chemicals that have endocrine disruptors that mimic chemicals in the body, such as estrogen, and that can cause negative effects on your fertility. And people that are looking to, I suppose, be and live their best life, it's important to have the best type of foods, because your health is your wealth. And spending a little more, whether you're buying organic berries or growing your own, is so important, because it not only affects you, it doesn't necessarily affect you immediately, it's more further down the line. You need to understand that not all food is created equally. And if a food is cheap, whether it be berries or a vegetable or a meat source that you may or may not consume, the idea that if it is cheap, the price is not paid at the counter, it's paid way before that. And food shouldn't ever be cheap, because it's hard, it's difficult. I've got working hands that I grow a small bit of my own veg, and I have to point out that it's difficult to produce something, especially chemical free and organic. So making sure that you're putting your money where your mouth is, and making sure you get the best type of foods that you can possibly afford. If you can't afford it, as I said, just make sure you can have tips and strategies and tools during this podcast. Or if you're looking for any specific veg that you would like to add into your diet, or tips on how to grow it, well, certainly send me a message. And because I'm here to help, I just want people to live their happiest and their healthiest life, and that most certainly is inclusive of fruits and vegetables grown local, fresh, and organic being the gold standard. And that is, suppose, it wraps up our 30-minute podcast of this week's Q&A. So I just want to finish up by saying thanks very much for staying with me for the full duration of this podcast. And if you would do me a massive favor, if you would give me a review on either Apple, or sharing this either on your social media platforms. That just really helps me get and reach out to people that I otherwise would not have the opportunity to. Okay, so that is my one favor to you. Or than that, whenever you're listening to this podcast, me being a positive individual, I hope that you do your best on any given day. And this is my tip for you today. The next person that you see, make sure you try and make their life just 1% better, because you'll always get something more from doing something for someone else, whether it's hold the door, buying them a coffee or a tea, actually preferably green tea, or just doing some small insignificant thing that makes their life a little bit easier. And that is something that's 100% free. All right. As I always end these podcasts by saying, stay tuned, stay classy, and keep it organic.